Jason Campbell and I started Camburg in 1997. We're basically going on almost 25 years right now. We started just with the passion of going out to the truck races out in Barstow and watching people race, going, we want to do that. You know, back in the day, it was either you had a mini truck or a lifted truck. Pre-runners really weren't the thing yet. We're kind of at the forefront of that. It's kind of when it all started. And so I had a Toyota truck, Jason had an older 1988 Toyota truck. You really couldn't buy all the high-end suspension that was on the race truck. So we were basically in our garages building radius arms and long travel Toyota arms. You couldn't just go to the store and buy it like today. One thing led to the other where it was like, okay, now we got people stopping me at the gas station, you know, where did you get that? Oh, no, I made that, you know, oh, cool, how much for me? And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know, like go to my parents' garage and whittle it out, charge a little bit of money, and the light bulb went off and went, wow, this could be a good job for me. And I approached Jason. He was working at a place in Costa Mesa, BMP Fabrication. BMP was known for doing people like Brady Helm at the time racing Lorana's stock mini truck, taking that Toyota truck before a Tacoma was a Tacoma. He had a V6 in it and long bed standard cab, and they did the Heim joint strut frame, which was like not in existence anywhere. That's where Jason worked doing that stuff. This is where the guys do all the production welding. So everything that we're shaping with Baileigh gets put together back here. So you'll see the tube notcher in action back there. And then here's where they get welded together to make your upper control arms, long travel kits, all that kind of product. Well, naturally, building everything from your trail to the full-blown race truck and in between, we manufacture these rear end housings here. And these rear end housings we have with 3.5-inch tube as well as 4-inch tube. We do everything from bearing size from 2 1/4, 2.5, up to 3 1/4 bearings, which run the big, massive 36 spline axles, which are basically the size of a monster can. So all kinds of products that we make here using Baileigh equipment. All the high quality stuff that we make, you can make in your garage using that same equipment. Guys in the shop, I got young guys working in the back, and I mean, I've had guys where their fingers say weld hard across their fingers because they're just welders and they just love the welding, and you know, we're providing rad parts that they get to weld, but they have pride in welding these parts because they know they're really high-end parts and they get to weld that thing together, and they just are stoked that they welded that part together. And what we have here in the background, they don't make this tool anymore, but this is from Scotchman. This is a turret iron worker, they call it. So any fabricator knows how useful an iron worker is, and Baileigh has a full line of these tools. They have massive ones that are probably 2-3 times bigger than this. But this is one of the first tools we bought as Camburg. You can see here, there's TIG welding all around these because these things come loose. We basically wore it out. We're not a lift kit company, you know, we're doing high-end off-road suspension, and we're doing high-end off-road race vehicles, and we're trying to push ourselves constantly with fabrication. So we need to have the best materials, the best tools, and the best craftsmanship all mixed up to be able to build what we're building for you guys. So on this truck here, this is an unlimited truck. These trucks get run 2 different ways. There's the term trophy truck when we race and score, which is your Baja races. And then there's the term spec trophy truck or 6100 truck, which is exact same trucks, and they have the stock LS3 engines put in them. So this is a 2-wheel drive vehicle. We're actually in design, and we have some really trick parts coming out because we're working on a new all-wheel drive truck, which is now the next level that these trucks have become. So, I mean, it's just, the sky's the limit, and technology's here. Drivetrain, X-Trax, the company that builds, we basically look at an F1 car and all their gearboxes and gears and all their stuff. Well, we're using X-Track in these trucks, so you can only imagine the cost associated with building these. This is one of the 2-wheel drive trucks. We're doing all the sheet metal here. So right here we mounted the MagnaFlow mufflers on top of the panels. You see some of the sheet metal, which is simple cutout, shearing, corner rounding, all that. Then we get into some of the rear panels here where, you know, we're countersinking everything, and we got screen that bolts in here. We got the dual dry brake for filling up the gas tank, dimple all your Zeus buttons and everything. So we're doing all that back here. A lot of fabrication goes in there where we're, you know, doing the dimples and using the presses to put all this in here, which makes the part a lot more rigid. It's not just for looks, and a lot of people do it just because it looks cool. But what it's doing is adding different surfaces, different directions. It's kind of like pocketing out aluminum. Adds a lot of strength. And then we're getting into this truck over here, where this truck here has a mid-fuel gas tank. This truck here is gonna run a rear fuel gas tank. So differences of these two trucks. This one's gonna be all MIG welded. It's more of a price thing, a budget thing. It's gonna get all painted and covered up anyways. But basically the same truck suspension-wise. This is just made to a different budget. It's not racing as seriously as the other one. And this is gonna have a 1973 Ford F100 cab on it. So this is our hot rod. So this is getting an Albin sequential gearbox on a really rowdy, I think it's around a 440 something cubic inch, LS-based engine running all on Motec and everything. It'll be paddle shifted. It's gonna be badass. Back in my parents' garage, this was actually the first tool right here that I bought, besides a welding machine and a chop saw. So this is called the Burr King. These things have been around for years, and they were the only game in town at the time. Now we have Baileigh, and they make things like this. They make them like 50 different ways. Must-have tool is an abrasive belt sander with a 2-inch belt and all the different attachments that are available. And then we get into these kind of tools here. And this is a Baileigh notcher here, which this basically you can spin it around so you have different size belts. You got bigger ones, smaller ones. You could flip this around and get really little. This is an amazing tool. Guys in the shop use it all the time. We use these things so much, like we're probably wearing these things out every 5 years and just going for a new one or buying some new rollers and stuff because we just abuse it. Like it's a production shop. It is what it is. So after we process all the tubing and we do what we do with all that, we also do all the bending and everything else. We got to notch the tubing. So, you know, we've taken this piece off here. We hand fab with this when we're building race truck chassis. So we have the different size dies on the 6-inch wide belt here. We don't use the attachment on here that comes with it very often because we make jigs that will bolt to here with stops, and you can basically, the way this thing slams in and locks and does its thing, you know, we put a stop on the back here, as you can see, that's adjustable, and it hits right here, so we could just stop to there. So as you're coming through, notching your tube, it stops, and that's when you know you get the perfect notch after we make a jig. So if you're building bumpers, you're building any tube product that's straight, bent, whatever, and you want to repeat, that's how we do it with the Baileigh equipment here. One of the most useful tools we have in the shop that we do not use very often, but it's definitely a must-have. The ease of this model, the way this model works here, this is, I believe it's called the RM55. It's got this ratcheting bar up on the top here, so you could really start cranking down on here. And the power of this machine. Radius tubes aren't something we do on not even the weekly, but when you need to do it, you have to have this tool. We've used other models of these tools on the market. One, they're extremely expensive, and trust me, this machine blows them away. We've used them all. You got all the different dies, you got smaller ones here, and it's really cool how they do it, but you know, we'll do 1.5 and 1.75 inches most of the time what we do. We have the 2-inch dies, and then we do a lot of smaller ones for, you know, mounting bedsides or doing whatever. But this really gives the chassis a nice modern look when we could really radius the tube. You know, we'll radius these bends here, and then even at the end sometimes we'll do a little kick of a normal bender, so we incorporate both benders when we do this. If you ever look on the inside of an F100 cab, they're actually radius inside. So this whole radius follows those lines, and then there'll be a couple gusset tubes here. So the way this fits in that cab, really cool tool to have to match the inside of the cab. This is one of our uprights that's full billet machined. This is a portal upright. So basically you have these 3 gears in here, and there's this bigger gear which turns the drive plate here for where the hub is. The reason why we do that is the axle comes in up here, but we're driving the wheel from here. So you're getting lift like the 2-wheel drive trucks, and that's why we're running these. We didn't invent these. These were invented years ago. If you look at like a Unimog and some of that, they've all had this kind of stuff. What does Baileigh's do better than any other company? One, they have a massive social media presence. Now, this isn't the most important thing they do. This is just one of the great things they do. So when you use Baileigh equipment, and you make something badass, Baileigh sees it and then they post it, which just showed over 1 million people what you're able to do with their equipment. Now, the most important thing Baileigh does is Baileigh makes equipment for everything, small to massive. All right, so some of the other Baileigh tools that we have here at the Camburg shop, and every fabricator knows how valuable a bandsaw is. So this bandsaw here isn't the largest one Baileigh makes, but it's definitely the best one for this shop. I think the first tool you learn in wood shop or high school metal shop would be with a bandsaw. So one of our production tools here is this Baileigh press. But what's cool about this is it's full hydraulic. You could adjust the pressure. What we use with this is we press in all the bearing races. We have billet hubs here, so we make these. These go anywhere from your pre-runners to your high-end trophy trucks. So we have the bearing races that get pressed in. We do the wheel studs and all that stuff. Each wheel stud gets pressed in. We do them one at a time. We've had fixtures before where we do them all at the same time. But what we want to ensure here is they're all pressed perfectly, and so we actually do them one at a time. It's real noisy in the shop. We try to really turn down the noise here in the shop. And so this doesn't make any noise, and it's much faster and much more precise, and that's why we prefer to use this one. And by doing that there, we're basically pressing in all these wheel studs, and we want to do it with precision because in the back we have a flat there, and what the flat does is it doesn't let that wheel stud rotate. When you crank those things on, you got to crank them off fast. So we just want to make sure we're pressing those in without gouging the side of the aluminum there. My son's 19, he's racing a truck. I guess the biggest thing is like we're passing it down to the youth. We call it generations here because they're second generation. My business partners' sons, Corey and Cody, they're racing with my son Zach. We're gonna get my daughter in the truck, she's 17, she wants to race as well. Pass that on, I guess. When I started Camburg, I never thought like, wow, what's this gonna be like when I'm 25 years as Camburg? We didn't even know if it was gonna last a year. You know, I'm just getting to do what I love to do. So to me, that's important. I'm not putting on a suit and tie and sitting in a cubicle in an office somewhere, just hating my life, staring at a computer screen all day. I live it. I live off-road. I live the automotive industry, from sports cars, hot rods, off-road trucks, boats, and whatever. If it's got an engine and it goes fast, it's cool. I love it.